And so we welcome you to this temple of triumph. Beneath the Japanese sun, we are bathed in brilliance here at Suzuka for yet another round of Season 4 of Formula Premier. With the championship wrapped up for Zerkyie, he is absent today for the first time since he joined Formula Premier back at the United States Grand Prix. But we have 12 drivers looking to conquer this Suzuka circuit. I am Ben McCarthy. It is my privilege to bring you the Japanese Grand Prix action and the sprint action to come as well. With this short qualifying session, we have a sprint to be enjoyed before the 27-lap Grand Prix. So then we are underway for qualifying with the drivers, or some drivers, heading out on track. One of them being Axel, who is heading through the S's now. And we can ride on board with the Alfa Romeo. And it is one of the most pulsating pieces of track you will see anywhere on the calendar. Just exhilarating. Even on this outlap, it is just a teasing sight to behold. And you can see Slick coming towards the first Degner at the end, or the start of the second sector. And underneath the bridge, Suzuka being the only figure of 8 layout on the Formula 1 calendar. And it is most certainly a classic. Of course, it made its debut in the sport back in 1987, incidentally, where Nelson Piquet won his final Formula 1 World Championship. And since we have seen many drivers conquer the Suzuka circuit and crown themselves champions. Think back to Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost in 1980, or 1990, then 1989, if we're going in that order. Of course, controversial. We have Mika Hakkinen, Michael Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen all becoming Drivers' World Champions around this circuit. But who can power to prowess around this ribbon of tarmac as Axel gets us underway as he flashes into turn 1, taking a lot of entry curb there. A little bit of understeer going through turn 2, but here we go then. The teasing, tremendous S's section. Left, right, left again, right again, and then left once more before we head into Dunlop. Axel throwing that Alfa Romeo through each and every one of these Suzuka corners. He'll be the first driver to cut the beam at the end of the first sector, so it's no surprise to see him registering a purple sector through the exit of Degner 2. It is a lot more challenging of a corner is Degner 2, though it is slower. You really need to get the front and rear hooked up, or you are sailing into the barriers that are certainly not too far away. But approaching Spoon curve now, and Axel trying to take a wider berth as possible. Trifle of understeer going into the first apex, and then a whole lot of oversteer coming off of the exit. We know this circuit's limits now as Axel dances with the rear of the car, and that brings to an end his first run in qualifying. Slick would take over the reins, but he has invalidated his attempt. So let's cut then to it is out on track, but he is on an outlap. How about Tabulate Storm then, who's coming through the exit of Spoon, where of course we just saw Axel go for a spin, and the exit of Spoon curve absolutely imperative. It's a long old dash before 130R. It's called that because of the radius of the corner for you maths geeks out there. But now heading into the chicane. The McLaren looking smooth, looking slick, but as it's speedy as he comes through the final corner, takes a short run to the line. It's a 130.6. Can that be overcome in this session? UPass in the Williams is looking to do just that. A curve rate is 7/10 shy of Tabulate Storm. UPass having Jammy right behind him, and it looks like Jammy in the Williams is going to lose a hint of time, but not enough to dethrone him in relation to Tabulate Storm. The Williams throws himself to the front with Curtis Chaos coming within half a second of him. That's a strong lap there from the Haas. He's unleashing his potential on this Suzuka circuit as Aaron Cesaro with a mighty effort to go provisional pole from Gupta, who slots into second, and Jami all of a sudden shuffled down to third. Oh, is that a spin? Yes, it is. For Upass, who has lost his front wing through the S's. And for a man who was struggling, it seemed, on his first run, spinning through the S's without a front wing, that is not going to set him in good stead. Fighting coming to the end of the second sector. How will he fare in the Red Bull? It has been one disappointing season for both Hydrant and Revokes, the pair of Red Bull drivers who just haven't got that consistency together. But as Hydrant crosses the line, he moves up into the top 5. Slick seems like on a fresh new set of tyres and heading out on track once more. And with tyre degradation being just so punishing around this circuit, you don't really want to have to go for 2 runs. So if you do eliminate your first attempt, you're not going to be expecting to reap the fruits of another one. So then Aaron, provisional pole, 3/10 from Gupta, and the 3-time champion is emerging from the darkness of season 4 and is looking to battle back to the front. Lucas, I haven't mentioned him just yet. He's currently third ahead of Jami, and you can see from second to fourth, it's just so tight. Just over 6/100ths of a second separates those 3 drivers, and they will look to be the points of difference in this session as Upass once more running off-road as he looks to come into the pit lane, which he duly does. So the Williams will be able to get rid of that broken front wing, bolt on a new set of tyres and go again. On board with Slick then, coming through the first couple of corners, again a hint of understeer as he then dances on the curb on the exit, but heading through the S's now. So much command is needed on the front end around this place, particularly through the S's. And Slick hinting every moment that he puts down the power that he is looking for acceleration. And through the end of the first sector, it is the quickest of the lot through the 2 deadly corners now. It looks smooth from Slick, but of course that is only half the lap completed. The challenge is to mount and mount and mount, and he's a long way from home. A little bit of understeer once more from the Aston Martin off of the exit of the hairpin, taking the short run through the right-hander and slotting himself into Spoon Corner. It's quite a surprise to see these drivers being able to take to the curbs so well with these new modern Formula 1 cars, with ground effect being such of an emphasis. It's so refreshing to see the drivers being able to play around with the curbs, which we haven't really been able to see in real life. Having said that, these curbs around Suzuka are rather flat compared to tracks like Austria. But Slick is now going to cross the line and Slick within 14/1000ths of a second. That is a whisker away from provisional pole, but Aaron holds him off. It's going to be one laborious battle for success around Suzuka, and Slick has brought himself into play. Axel now heading into 130R, taking to the curbs on exit and then heading into the chicane. Looking up the final corner, Axel, and then chooses to come into the pit lane. Tablet Storm on a lap, well, about to start that, my apologies. And we have, seems like someone joining us. Seems like Mblaze27 has joined us, who's taken over the reins of the Aston Martin car. But back to Tablet Storm, who rages through the S's section. And having just had a look at the Discord server, it seems like it is going to be a wet race around Suzuka. It looks like it's going to be a challenging lap, though, for Tablet Storm. He taps the wall through the exit of the S's and throws away that attempt as his teammate passes him on the road. But yeah, that was a scary moment there for Tablet Storm, who is going to have to come into the pits at the end of this lap with, well, just over 7.5 minutes remaining. But you can just see how challenging it is around Suzuka, how you can just lose the car in an instant moment, and how your lap can be written away. Or written off, it's probably the correct term. But Tablet Storm just moving off the racing line to allow some drivers through. And next cut then to Curtis Chaos, who is 24 milliseconds away from his provisional attempt, as it seems like Hydrant. Is that Hydrant? Yes, it is. Out of this session. Has he had a tap with Emblaze? I think he has. Emblaze then leaving the session, but that is a very confusing moment. Or maybe he had contact with Slick, I'm not too sure. Well, then again, Slick is in the pit lane. A confusing moment arising here at Suzuka. Hydrant out of qualifying, having crashed through the first sector. But I'm certainly flummoxed as to why he is out of the session. But here comes Revokes then taking over your pictures. And he's 3.5 seconds down through the first sector, so we'll skip away from him for a brief moment. Lucas on an out lap. Gupta improving through the first sector. And it seems like it's the quickest of the lot thus far, and McLaren now heading into the hairpin, heading into turn 11. And this is most certainly an interesting corner where you can take different lines, and Gupta optimising his, putting down the power through the right hander once more, and heading off into Spoon Curve, passing the hats of Curtis Chaos, and flashing into Spoon. Once more, the throttle is nailed down. See as he cuts the beam through the second sector. Oh, this is going to be close. This is going to be so close. Gupta, in his pursuit of pole position, could deliver another special moment in this division. From the clouds of darkness to provisional pole for the 3-time champion. And this league's sensation yearns to startle again. With just over 5 minutes to go, Gupta has found the magic touch once more. But how does the opposition respond? Lucas finding time through the first sector. He's currently 4.5 tenths down on Gupta, and through the middle sector he's looking to breach the gap and bring it right back down. The Ferrari bringing himself into contention, heading through the chicane and through one final corner on this latest attempt for the Ferrari. Currently fourth, moves to provisional pole and steals it in a heartbeat away from Gupta by 16 milliseconds. It was so close, but the Ferrari now boasts the upper hand. Pass through the end of the first sector, finding a 1/4 second. As a Kerdre having a spin through the exits of the second Egner. The scene of Lewis Hamilton's crash in practice back in 2010, but the Williams carries on his way. And heading into Spoon Curve with a hint of understeer in the Williams, and the rear end just not responding, and the Williams just about avoids the barriers. But while he was seeking improvement, Suzuka bites back. The Williams rejoining the road sheepishly. So then, we have just a handful of minutes left, 3 to be exact, left of qualifying. Lucas may just have enough time to come into the pit lane and change tyres and go for one final push lap. It seems so. Jamie, who is currently 5th, is looking for an improvement, and he is, well, going to do his best to find one on this lap. the Williams will be heading down the long back straight towards 130R, warming up its tyres, so he doesn't want to warm them up too much. As we have seen, Suzuka can really cause excessive degradation and thermal temperature to the tyres. Mastering that art is going to be key to success around this circuit, and Jamie looks to do just that. Currently within half a second of Lucas, who sits on provisional pole. He heads into the first couple of corners. It seems like a moment of brief instability with the rear end, but he will charge on through the S's now. Williams successful last season with AM7 around this circuit. Jamie this season could take the constructor back to the top step of the podium on this very tarmac. And through the first sector, he's finding just over a tenth and a half. But it is through the second and third sectors, particularly the final sector, where he lost a whole heap of time, being caught behind his teammates. It looks strong enough from the Williams so far, but as the track rubbers in, you expect improvements to be found. But we could just have a five-way fight for pole position. Jamie looking to be amongst that, looking to seize that as he comes off of the exit of Spoon and heading down the long back straight into 130R. It'll be flat. 4 tenths is the margin he has found through the first two sectors. It was foot to the floor through 130R and into the final chicane before the brief left-hander. And Jamie in the Williams looking to seize back the provisional pole, which he does by a third of a second. That may just show you how much time he lost on that first run through the final sector. And could it just be one lap too many and too good for the opposition to dethrone? Drivers filing in behind one another as Aaron in the Alpine, now on his latest lap and his last lap in qualifying. The checkered flag is beckoning for these drivers. The lap of the weekend needs to be found, and Aaron searching for it, or yearning to search for it through the end of the first sector. He's down by 6/100ths of a second. On the leaderboard, he's down by 4 tenths. And through the hairpin now for Aaron as the checkered flag comes out. Gupta looking for yet more of an improvement. Lucas looking for an improvement. Jamie, we know, is not going to be completing another lap as Excel. Currently in 6th place, bettering Hydrant's efforts. And here we go then for the drivers. Oh, and Aaron finding the wall off of the exit of Spoon. A massive tank slapper. And the walls were waiting. Jamie just about avoiding him. But I talked about how Suzuka was biting. It has bitten very hard to Aaron. So then Slick heading into Spoon Curve. Lucas off the exit of Spoon Curve. Gupta now coming through the exit of Spoon Curve. So we could see a major reshuffling of the order in the next few moments. Slick through the end of the second sector is up by 3 tenths. Gupta, it seems like he may have been up, but Lucas is going to be the first to cross the line. He has Jamie in sight, and he still has Jamie ahead. Gupta will reach the line. Gupta to the front row. How about Slick? Slick then dethrones Gupta and progresses to the front row, and it seems like Jamie got the measure of the opposition. Only one more driver to cross the line. It revokes. It's only 6th for the Red Bull. And by just 56 milliseconds, the Williams of Jamie delivers one mighty effort. What a lap from the Williams. Slick ran him so close. Gupta and Lucas ran him very close. The top 4 separated by less than a tenth and a half. A gasp was all that separated the top 4, but it is Jamie who had the perceptible, the poignant touch in this qualifying session. And so it is then Jamie on provisional pole. I'm on pole position, sorry. But what a lap then from Jamie, who once more seems to be gearing up his talent. And yeah, what an effort. What an effort it was. So then it seems like we're just going to wait before the sprint gets underway. But be rest assured, we have one thrilling sprint ahead of us. Let's hope that the action that we can invest in tonight is going to be one to remember. Thank you to everyone that waited. So yeah, thanks to everyone that waited. We will have no formation lap, so we're just going to get straight into it then. So, with Jamie on pole, we have one riveting race. The gaps were so fine, so tight in qualifying, but what about this sprint? As we delve into the action here at the Japanese Grand Prix, as we go from the lights to the action, we are sprinting away in Suzuka. It's a great start there from Jamie, but Slick asking some questions on the run towards turn one. The Aston Martin lending himself the inside line, but Jamie hanging it around the outside. One valiant charge around the outside, and the Aston Martin comes close, but not close enough. What a fabulous defence there from Jamie. It was Verstappen-esque. Going through the first couple of corners, Slick second, Lucas third ahead of Aaron, Gupta fifth. The Hydrants and the Vokes swapping places, the two Red Bulls side by side. And we have, it seems like Emblaze trying to get past U-Pass, going into Decna 1, and the Williams getting all out of shape. As Kurtre joining in the fight as well, but Jamie leads the sprint then from Slick. Lucas in third ahead of Aaron. Gupta dropping down 2 places. The McLaren not getting the start he wanted off of the line. But the Williams, he was asked the serious question going into turn 1. But my oh my, he had the definitive response now. Through the extra spoon, down the long back straight towards 130, Octabulate Storm getting into a spin and dropping right down the order, down into 13th and last. But Jamie leading Slick going into 130. Is anyone close enough to make a move just yet? It doesn't seem like it's the case. No DRS enabled just yet, but look how close Slick is getting to Jamie. Such as the top end speed he has in that Aston Martin. Jamie all of a sudden is being drawn into the clutches of the Aston Martin, and down the start finish straight, the Aston Martin drawing closer and closer and closer. The Vokes getting close to Gupta as well. Going into turn 1, no moves being made just yet. No DRS available, of course, at this stage of the sprint. But Jamie leading from Slick, and the Aston Martin has the target right ahead of him, and he is ready to pounce. They're all in formation, journeying through the S's. And you can see Lucas is very much in this fight as well. So too is Aaron, and Gupta, you can see, starting to struggle. Maybe that speed he had in qualifying is just not materialising in the races. Aaron tapping the wall off of the exit of Decna. And after such a super start, the Alpine slips down the order and suffocates beneath Suzuka's wrath. That's 2 spins we've already seen in this sprint, and we're only on lap 2. That shows you just how punishing this track is. With Jamie looking to defend himself, trying to move out of the toe from Slick. Lucas right in behind, and the Ferrari closing in, going into 130. Slick once more closing in on Jamie. One must definitely look at how much downforce is carried with these cars around this track, so the slipstream effect is going to be that much more mighty, and heading down the start-finish straight for a 3rd time. Slick closing in on Jamie, but he is not close enough. Lucas in the fight as well. Still no moves being made except for Tablet Storm, who has battled past U-Pass. The Williams down in last, his teammates out in front, the field submerged in a Williams sandwich. But it is Jamie that still leads. Slick that is still second, and you can see Gupta struggling still with the yellow flags. Out on track, that's U-Pass once more today, who has had a brief moment. And this is just such a challenging track, and one that the Williams knows too wary of. The challenge is, as that's the Alpine of a Kurtre now spinning out, and a Kurtre dropping down into 12th. And the mistakes are mounting and mounting into a sheer tally of them now. Right. The top 3 separated by less than a second. Jamie from Slick, from Lucas. DRS will be enabled to the drivers. Scorch through the start-finish straight once more, and that will most certainly aid Slick's progress. He has the Williams in sight, he has a move to be made. Can he make it count the next time? They channel down the start-finish straight. The Aston is closing and closing yet more through the exits of the chicane, through the final right-hander. He is drawing just so close to the Williams to start lap 4 of the sprint. Charging towards turn 1, he inches closer and closer, but once more not close enough going into turn 1. The Williams just about has that top-end speed down the straight to keep Slick at bay. But it's a laborious task, one laborious task for the race leader, for the sprint leader, who is looking for yet another win in season 4. And we return our attention to the leading trio. Lucas actually closing in on Slick quite a lot on this lap, as the Aston just had a brief moment running offline perhaps through the first sector. We know if you run offline around this circuit, you will suffer the consequences. Slick taking a different line through the hairpin, hasn't really penalised him. It's interesting to see how different lines can be taken through this section of track. And just look how much command Lucas has of that Ferrari right now. Slick running out wide onto the curb to the midpoint of that spoon apex. And look at these three, just so close to one another. I think Jami's actually broken away from Slick just a little bit on this lap. And Lucas is the man on a move. Going into the final chicane on board with the Ferrari. He didn't seem to open up that final corner, the second part of that chicane, as much as he liked. And Slick could nail down the throttle and run away from him, Gupta with the fastest lap of the sprint so far. UPass with a time penalty. But you can see Slick is gaining down the start-finish straight. But Jami just about has enough in his disposal. So then through Degree 2 once more. That looked like a hint of understeer there from Slick, but he's remaining in contention. It's great to see that these drivers can follow one another in battle for the sprint lead. How much battery is Slick saving? We can have a look, we can have an insight. It's about 60%. Jami has 87%. The race management from the Williams driver thus far has been exemplary. Heading through the exit of Spoon Curve, and he's utilising the battery just a little bit on exits, and he's using it once more, but not too much. You can see the Aston Martin trying to use as much as possible as well. You can see Lucas really on the tail of Slick now. Is he going to chance a move going into the chicane? He did for a brief moment, but he's too far behind, and through the final corner, it is still the winner that leads, but Jami getting a brief moment of opposite lock. Does that bring the Aston Martin into play? Once more down the start finish straight. Lucas is really close now. He chanced to move to the inside of turn 1. And he's just so tight through that apex. Slick had just enough in reserve to retain the sprint lead. It's good to see the insight we are getting from the factory and the ERS used by the drivers so far. And Jami's still got 80% in reserve. Slick has most certainly less. And Lucas yet still, but is Slick using that to defend from Lucas more than as an offensive source? We'll have to see. But these three on lap 6 of 9 in this sprint remain inseparable. Through the right hand, the scene of Carlos Sainz's crash on the first lap of last year's Japanese Grand Prix revokes. It looks like his displaced Heidland and is up into 5th. So it's a swap of positions between the two Red Bulls. Slick trying to open up the exit of Spoon as much as he can, but hints of oversteer there. It looks like the Williams is racing away just a little bit. Lucas bringing himself into play now, going into 130R. Yellow flags out on track. I think UPass has had another spin, which drops him yet further behind the pack ahead. Through the final corner, the Aston Martin looking to utilise DRS once more. The two separated by half a second as they cross the line to begin lap 7. What a riveting sprint this has been. it has been one that disperses precision in pursuit of sprint supremacy, and Zerkyie just about is gripping onto that supremacy, but Slick and Lucas, they're still asking the right questions. On board with Lucas, heading through the exit of the S's through Dunlop now, the scene of Marcus Ericsson's crash in 2018 and Mick Schumacher's crash in practice in 2022. Just look at the strengths of each of these drivers through different stages of the track. Some carrying more speed through a specific apex, others just reserving a little bit to pin down the throttle on exits. We have just about 2.5 laps to go, and Slick will want to make his mark and make his move. Through the exit of Spoon once more, it seemed like a hint of understeer, which may just keep him at arm's bay for the moment. Zerkyie still trying to preserve that battery as his teammate has now found the wall off of the exit of turn 2. It seems like UPass might actually get lapped in this sprint. But through the final corner now for 2 more laps of sprint action. Zerkyie just about has the measure of Slick, but for how much longer? Because the Aston Martin is closing in, metre by metre, into turn 1. The Aston Martin chancing the inside line. They came so close to contact. But Zerkyie still remains just an inch in front. Lucas isn't able to take advantage just yet. And the folks closing in on Gupta once more. Gupta has his hands full with a Red Bull behind. Heading through Dunlop and into Degner. How much does the Red Bull have in advantage? He actually has a whole lot of understeer through the first Degner. He has a whole lot of oversteer through the exits of the second Degner and crashes out of the sprint. And the Red Bull, who was searching for a place in front of Gupta, is now consoled to the sidelines with just 1.5 laps to go. And for the McLaren, relief. Zerkyie spending the battery now as he looks to keep Slick in reserve. Lucas, just not close enough, is he to Slick, but through the chicane towards the final corner for one final lap of this sprint, and the Williams looks to be marching away now. He's going to set the fastest lap of this sprint, which he does do. Slick now over a second behind. Lucas is a second behind Slick. It seems like the order has been established going into the final lap of this sprint, but here comes Axel marching down the start-finish straight. And now seeing that Haas of Curtis Chaos behind him. Aaron, who spun so early on in this sprint, is battling up back into the points. But he wants more. Oh, he does want more. And through the end of the S's, you can see he's struggling with that Alpine through the end of the S's on towards Dunlop. He's certainly restricting the Alpine's progress, but he does have some serious speed around this circuit. We will hope that the race lands in his fortunes as he goes into the hairpin once more on the tail of the Haas. Heading down the long back straight for one final time. Zerkyie has mastered this beautifully. Never has the Aston Martin swarmed from his sight, but the Williams, with such measure and such precision, is going to find the checkered flag first. What an articulate, what a dexterous drive from the Williams, who sees the checkered flag first, and he will start the Grand Prix from the very front. He betters Slick in the sprint by just over a second, with Lucas crossing the line in third. The top three were in a league of their own in this sprint. As Axel just ahead of Curtis Chaos in the Haas, just ahead of Aaron by 0.2 of a second. What a mighty battle that was to the end. UPass crossing the line in 12th place, a lap down with a Kurgray crossing the line to be the last of the finishers in this sprint. What a drive, what a drive from Jamie. It's pole position, it's sprint supremacy, and it's a Grand Prix to be won. The Williams will think. So then, what a riveting sprint that was. Jamie bettering Slick by a second. Lucas on the tail of the leading pair, with Gupta in fourth. Well, if the sprint is anything to go by, we have a fascinating 27-lap Grand Prix in store for us, and it will be coming about in just a few moments' time. So then, that was, well, we saw such tight margins in qualifying. We saw even tighter margins during the sprint. Hopefully that'll be indicative of one thrilling race ahead. But with a 27-lap race ahead of us as opposed to a 9-lap sprint, the strategy options really vary and really, really open. The drivers will be looking to start most certainly either on the mediums or the hard, particularly towards the front row, unless the fear does mount that rain is in the air. You wouldn't think it from this screen. Apparently, there is some awaiting. And so then it seems like we're about to get going for the Japanese Grand Prix. We've seen a mega tight qualifying session. We've seen an even tighter sprint. And it could just be one epic Grand Prix ahead of us. Sit back, tighten your seatbelts, and get ready for the ride, as we look to explore the depths of drama around this Temple of Triumph. As we go from the lights to the action and racing around Suzuka, Slick this time has mastered the start. He looks like he's got the better of Jamie going into the first corner and the Williams settling in behind. This time, Jamie doesn't have a response, with Lucas now waiting in the wings in third. Gupta fourth, Curtis Chaos triumphing up into fifth place ahead of Hydrant and Red Bull, looking for a switchback move on the Hassies, exploring all different lines. Is he going to make a move around the outside? Hydrant teasing the impossible, but isn't able to bring it about just there. But what a start from Slick. He came mighty close on the first lap in the sprint. He has the lead now though. And Jamie this time has to settle for seconds going through the first couple of corners. On board with Aaron now, who's thinking about a move perhaps going into the hairpin. He reserves a little bit of purchase through the hairpin, but to put down the power off the exit of the hairpin, he looks to march onto the rear wing of that Red Bull, entering Spoon Curve. The Alpine having to settle in behind, but Jamie, after losing the lead in the opening metres of this race, towards the end of the first lap, wants the lead back. And now heading down this long back straight into 130R. Can he make his move? Closing. He is closing. It's the Williams, but he's not close enough just yet. Off the exits of the chicane and through the final corner. Oh, he lost the rear wing and rear just slightly. Slick's able to romp away. Lucas would have thought he could bring himself into play. He's not that close just yet. Hydrant ahead of Curtis Chaos now. Hydrant in 5th. Curtis Chaos 6th, but the Red Bull looks like he's going to run wide through the first couple of corners. As you pass currently in P11, but Slick still leading Jamie through the snaky S's section. So we have yellow flags out on track. It's a Kerdre. It is a Kerdre out of this race. And the Alpine driver becomes the first retiree from this Grand Prix. Which is most certainly not the start or not the race he wanted whatsoever. Pointless in the sprint. And subjected to the sidelines early on in the Grand Prix proper. So it seems like Gupta just doesn't have the speed on race trim at the moment on the hard compound tyres, which all drivers in the top 10 are currently on. So that shows you the drivers wanting to run that alternate strategy or are waiting for the heavens to open, which we've seen time and time again around Suzuka. Some of the drivers will most certainly be hoping for today. Aaron on the tail of Curtis Chaos going into the chicane. He's not close enough. He's calculating the move, which could come about in just a few metres time. Oh, he taps the rear of the Haas going through the final corner. That could bring Axel into play, but he's not close enough down the start-finish straight. That's a terrible camera angle. But the Alpine of Aaron closing in on the Haas through the first corner, through the second corner. But still, Curtis Chaos remains ahead. On board with Jamie. He mastered the sprint perfectly. We saw that just 5 minutes ago. You can see in this race how much more battery he has in reserve compared to Slick, and Lucas seemingly saving some battery as well. Gupta saving a lot himself. I most certainly should use this graphic more. But Slick, currently your race leader. Winner of the Miami Grand Prix, of the Belgian Grand Prix, and looking to make it a hat-trick of wins in Season 4 of Formula Premiere. You pass though, off the road once more, and yeah, he's really struggling it seems around Suzuka, which he can be forgiven for. This is one horrid track if you're not in the groove. So then DRS will be in store for the Williams of Jamie down the start-finish straight. Can he ask the right questions of Slick? Doesn't seem so, as he has a terrible exit through the final corner. Lucas yearning to pounce, but he's not close enough. But here comes Aaron now on the tail of Curtis Chaos. He does have DRS, so he can nullify the threat from the Alpine behind. And these two running in formation through the first couple of corners. But can the Alpine experiment with some lines going through the S's corner? You can see the different lines he's taking. But can a move be brought about? He passed, spinning once more, the yellow flags out through the second sector of the exit of Spoon. But still, our eyes are transfixed upon this onboard footage of the Alpine, who has Curtis Chaos ahead. And he will want to battle past the Haas as soon as he possibly can. We saw the speed he delivered in the sprint. He was amongst it in the battle for pole position during qualifying. but can he make it count in the Grand Prix proper? Hydrant on the tail of Gupta now. And the Red Bull searching for a move. Jami searching for a move on Slick, and he has a promising exit off of Spoon Curve and heading towards 130R. That Aston Martin rear wing gets larger by the meter, heading through 130R now into the chicane. The Williams initially thinking about a move to the inside line, but wants to hold back and then nail down the throttle through the final corner, and then gets a massive tank slapper, and as Slick rubs away, Lucas begins to come into sight in the rear wing of that Williams. That's another scary moment for Jami through the final corner, and one that he hopes he will not experiment with once more. On board with Hydrant, off board with Hydrant, who's running in the tracks of Gupta. You can see the top three still separated by less than a second. And these three, like in the sprint, are just in a league of their own. Blistering pace they have delivered around the Suzuka Circuit. And let it rain on us. Not in terms of weather, of course. It's most certainly Slick won't want that as Lucas getting a huge amount of opposite lock. As we see the Williams of U-Pass getting lapped. And through Spoon Curve, the Williams of Jami just struggling a touch mid-apex, but looking to bring himself into play. These two are now very, very similar on battery deployment, as Hydrant closing in on Gupta. Such fierce battles, such close battles out on the track. And here comes Hydrant in fifth, looking for fourth, going into the chicane, but can't make his move. Curtis Chaos defending from Aaron, as we have the safety car now deployed. As U-Pass has crashed out of the race. No one taking the chance to pit just yet. So the race being neutralised as U-Pass becomes the second retirement in this race. The race being neutralised, if drivers will be able to stack up amongst one another. And the new chapter of action in this Grand Prix is ready to be written. As you can see, Slick running behind the safety car. And it's quite perfectly timed in terms of the safety car didn't have to be overtaken by anyone. The drivers can file out behind it. And on lap 6 of 27. So yeah, we have Slick still leading from Jami and from Lucas. Gupta fourth, Hydrant fifth, and for Gupta this will certainly be reprieve. After he just didn't have the pace in the opening laps, but he has a chance to remain in the action. This will have to be timed perfectly. The drivers having to put so much emphasis upon tyre temperature. It seems like we will be running for another lap behind the safety car, which is not a surprise as the marshals have to clear U-Pass's stricken Williams, and then we will be back underway here at Suzuka. I don't like that onboard camera. It's not, well, during the safety car period, yeah, but not during the action. This would be an appropriate time to roast Burton, but she's not here, so we can't do that. She gets a mention at least. Right then, so lap 7 of 27. Now for these drivers on the hard compound tyres, which is pretty much most of them, they'll be able to extend their stints on the hard compound tyres. Be interesting to see if they're just thinking about perhaps running to the softs on at the end of the race. We'll have to see. You can see it's interesting because we talked, of course, about at the start of this race the risk of rain. It doesn't seem like it's got any gloomier around the Suzuka Circuit. The sun is still shining bright. And there are some clouds mounting. Is that Hydrant? That is Hydrant. He's broken his front wing. He's dropped down into 11th. And my oh my, the Red Bull's race has taken a turn for the worst. Behind the safety car, he's had a massive moment. The safety car's going to come in at the end of this lap, so he's going to be completely detached from the pack. And after running such a promising opening chapter in this race, the Red Bull dealt a hammer blow when it could just matter most. And the attention turns to the front of the pack as Slick looking to put down the power to get us back underway. Jamie waiting in the wings. Slick chooses his moment, and the Williams of Jamie in sight. But Lucas getting a terrific restart as well. Tablet making up a position on Axel, but can the Ferrari of Lucas make a move on the Williams going into turn 1? Not quite. He's going to chance it going into turn 2. Oh, how close did they get to contact? Possibly too close for the Ferrari man's comfort, but got to 4th, Curtis Chaos 5th, Aaron 6th, ahead of Axel and Tablet Storm, Revokes his 9th and Blaze 10th, but Hydrant just coming out of the pits now, and that is just dejecting for the Red Bull driver. But so we march on, and with Slick in the lead, Jamie looking to search for his moment behind. Having on board the drivers, none of which are able to make a move going into the hairpin, but Slick starting to open up a margin of 2/3 of a second. Remember, no DRS enabled on this lap or the next. So Slick has given himself an opportunity to just ease away from the pack. Having said that, through Spoon Curve, he did not have the best of times, and Jamie just looking for any perceptible advantage that can bring him back into play and heading into 130R. The use of the slipstream, the deployment of battery down that long back straight. He is not to be ignored in this race, and he is going to note Slick of that. Through the final corner, Slick with the fastest lap of the race so far. Anyone fancying a move down the start-finish strip? Seems so just yet. Of course, no DRS enabled. The drivers are thwarted in terms of their chance of making a move. Green on blue, Aston Martin on Williams, two British racing teams on this Japanese tarmac, battling it out for the race lead. Aaron looking for a move on Curtis Chaos going into the first deck. It's not often you see a move being made there, but Aaron proving that you can make a move going into that sequence of tracks, and Revoke trying to make a move on the McLaren of Tablet Storm around the outside, taking such a wide line, and the two making contact. Revokes having to get out of it, but these two are bashing away with one another, igniting in battle, and for the moment, Tablet Storm has the advantage, though Revokes came close to tapping that McLaren through the exit or through the apex of Spoon Curve, but down this long back straight. Tablet trying to defend from Revokes. Now going into 130R, is the Red Bull close enough to make a move? Doesn't seem so just yet. And these drivers filing in behind one another, behind Curtis Chaos XL, not getting a good line. through the chicane. And Tablet fancies chances down this straight. But with DRS not in action, his chances will be dealt a blow. Jamie is as close as he's been as Gupta now spinning. This has been a as bulletproof a race as Gupta has driven this season. But through the first corner, it's dejection for Gupta once more. What a tragic shame that is for the McLaren. Aaron released up into the top four now. Curtis Chaos up into fifth. But for Gupta, he's now down into 10th, and that is just a shame. Nothing more, nothing less. Out in front, you can see Slick, he is reserving a lot of battery, which is something that he wasn't necessarily doing in comparison to Jamie during the sprint. And it was something he was doing before the safety car, and it is something he is doing now. It seems like he has worked out the tricks of Jamie on battery deployment, but of course, track position is the vital thing, obviously, come the checkered flag, and Jamie is searching for it right now. He'll have DRS down the start-finish straight, and he'll have it at last. Will he have the lead at last as we start lap 11 of 27? Inching closer and closer and closer yet still. Aston Martin remains the sights for him going into the first corner. Revokes on Tablet Storm perhaps. Was closing in at a rapid pace down the start-finish straight. But not enough, or at least the straight was not long enough to make a move. But Tablet Storm struggling. Revokes wanting to make a move as Curtis Chaos finding the wall, the latest driver to find the wall. And he now drops down into P10. The order is being reshuffled time and time again around this circuit. And Revokes always close. He is so close to the McLaren going into the hairpin. Oh, he came close to tapping the rear of that McLaren. He's looking to pin down the throttle on exit, but still the McLaren remains ahead. Going through the right-hander. Can he battle his way through now to the sequence of track where Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen collided back in 2018? No, he's not close enough, but the McLaren running out wide through the exit, and Revokes has his chance. He pulls to the inside down this long back straight. He inches ahead, and it's going to be a drag race towards 130R. The McLaren of Tablet Storm looking to miraculously hang it around the outside, but he runs out wide. He comes back onto the track, a fraction behind the Red Bull, but looking for the inside line, going into the chicane, and the two make contact. Battling away, and Revokes then goes into a spin. And Revokes, who is doing his utmost to make the move, he passaged ahead. He lost it all through the chicane. It was a battle awaiting its conclusion. And it's a battle that smiled at the prospect of the McLaren. And for Revokes, again, that's another massive shame in this race. At least for him. But back to the battle for the lead, and Slick remaining out in front. Again, their battery levels are now similar. But Jamie looking to spend his through the right-hander towards Spoon Curb. Lucas, I haven't really mentioned him much. He is waiting in the wings, but he is looking for his moment. If the two race leaders collide, he is in prime position, in pole position to take the race lead. But he still has two drivers ahead who seem to have the measure of him thus far. And now we start to inch towards half distance. And this Japanese Grand Prix, and Slick really struggling through the final corner now. Jamie did fare a lot better though. And perhaps his chance of closing in on Slick is going to be penalised a little bit. And without that mistake, you really feel Slick would have been under immense pressure going into turn one. But as he starts his 13th lap, he is under immense pressure through each and every corner, and he's standing up to it superbly. Now Hydrant out of the race. The Red Bull of Hydrant out of this race, and well, I imagine he came into the pit lane to retire, but my oh my, that's another driver eliminated from this race. Curtis Chaos will now romp up into the points. And no, the Red Bull must have retired in the pit lane. I cannot take my eye, well, I have two eyes. I cannot take my eyes away from this battle for the lead. And now yellow flags brought out on track. I think that's because Hydrant's ghost car has rejoined. But back to the battle for the race lead. Again, Jammy sensing an opportunity. This time he looks so close. But his trouble has been through this section of track. He has struggled through the final corner. He'll put down the power. We don't really want to see behind him. We want to see in front of him and how much he closes in on Slick. And now going into turn one, teasing a move to the inside. Slick saw it coming, but he then runs out wide. And that's a moment for Jammy that has come and it has gone. Slick was wary of that threat. He ran out wide, but he's just so tight through the first couple of corners. And the Aston holds on. Going into the couple of Degner corners now. Slick running out wide just a little bit. Jammy is closing in all the time. He does not have that precious track position which he held throughout the sprint. And now Aaron, wow, Aaron is close to Lucas. After running last in the sprint, he is 1 second from the race lead. I haven't mentioned his comeback enough because it has been superb. Yes, the safety car intervention helped him out. But ever since his setback so early on in the sprint, he has been just brilliant. And we have a four-way battle for the race lead. And now Jammy looking to trigger the undercut. He came so close to crashing at pit lane entry. And his heart must have been in his mouth. It was in my mouth. Well, not his heart in my mouth, but you get what I mean. But Jammy looking to trigger the undercut. So too is Tablet Storm and Revokes. And for the likes of Slick and Lucas and Aaron, can they stand that test? Jammy coming back out onto the track on the medium compound tyres, and he will look to unleash venom on this outlap to trigger the undercut and claim track position on Slick. The gap has been a second throughout this race. At times, well, most of the race has been less than that. Can this undercut deliver him the chance? We have now completed, well, we definitely have completed over half distance in this race. And Slick looks like he is delivering his efforts now on these hard compound tyres, hard and worn. This needs to be a stellar retribution from the Aston Martin. It is going to be just so tight. You can see Jammy, we can see on the leaderboard now how much is he going to close in on Slick, who almost certainly is going to pit on this lap. Through the final corner, into the pit lane. And indeed he does come into the pit lane, so too does Lucas, so too does Aaron. Slick, Lucas, Aaron in the pit lane. Is it going to be that order coming out of it? It most certainly will, but Jammy charging down the start-finish straight. Is he going to be close enough to challenge Slick? This is going to be close. This is going to be so close because Jammy all the time closing in and he just about gets ahead of Lucas. And it is, as you were between the top four, but the Aston Martin Slick now trying to generate temperature into his tyres. And look, Jammy is closing in. He has tyres that are up to temperature. He has confidence that he is exuding. He is taking different lines to the Aston Martin, and he has the race lead with a tantalising prospect laying before for him. The hairpin. Jamie is not quite close enough, but it's still, as you were, Slick, Jamie, Lucas, Aaron, the top four. But this is the closest Jamie has been, and marching towards Spoon Curve now. Is he going to look to the inside line going into Spoon? No. Slick, just about, remains ahead. But this undercut phase from the Williams has sparked him into life. Down 130R for the 16th time of 27 in this Japanese Grand Prix. The DRS zone is awaiting. The chance of the lead is closing for Jamie. Through the final corner, both drivers seemingly struggling just a touch. But the Williams with DRS down the start-finish straight. And he's closing once more, but the gap is pretty much as you were before the pit stops. And he is going to, boy, he's writing a book, is Jamie, in ways you have to pass Slick around this track. He's not mastered it in this race thus far, but he has 11 or 10 and a half laps to do just that. And Lucas still waiting in the wings behind the leading pair, or net leading pair. Gupta now takes over the race lead, but of course has not pitted. Again, we look at the battery deployment levels, similar levels. The difference of about, I was going to say 4 or 5%, but Jamie has spent a couple of percentage off of the exits of the hairpin, which is looking to last all the way to Spoon Curve. He has to be adroit. He has to be adroit, does Jamie, and that exit through Spoon Curve is not going to help him. But with the aid of DRS, he will close in one, oh, not DRS, sorry, with the aid of the slipstream, he will close in again and again. So then through the final chicane, Slick is opening up the second part of that chicane, which is giving him that better exit through the final corner, and he remains ahead, setting the fastest lap of the race so far. He is standing up to this test admirably. Lucas now over a second clear of Aaron. It doesn't seem like the Alpine has that same speed on these medium compound tyres. He has proved a challenging task to overtake around this track, yet still, it has been an engrossing Grand Prix. Listen to that sound. It's almost lyrical. Formula One cars raging around the Suzuka Circuit. And Slick is the lead driver. He heads jammy, but like it has been throughout the entirety of this race, it has not been by much. He took the lead going into the first corner, and then jammy had a problem. He lost rear grip going through Spoon Curve, and Lucas closing in, heading into 130R and closing in, yet still he's not going to make a move going into the left-hander, but into the chicane. He almost tapped the rear of the Williams. He's going to break to the outside of the chicane. That will lend itself into the inside line, and the Ferrari battles up into seconds. Beautiful opportunism there from Lucas, who saw the mistake and seized it with both hands, but Jamie closing back down the start finish straight, heading into turn one, heading around the outside from the Williams. This could be majestic if Jamie can make it stick, running side by side, making contact with one another, heading into the S's, and the Ferrari is ahead. Blistering, just blistering between the two, hammer and tong, through the famous ribbon of tarmac. And one mistake from Jamie, and Lucas was released. Here comes Aaron now on the rear of Jamie. The Williams is going to have to gather himself. He started this race from pole. He's facing the possible prospect of finishing outside of the podium. And that battle has given Slick an advantage of 1.5 seconds. precious, just precious there for Slick, who has just a few tenths to play with. He cannot obviously make a massive mistake. And he doesn't have Jammy hot on his heels anymore. And Jammy having to spend loads of battery in battle. Slick has a considerable amount left, and that is a massive hit to Jammy's chances of race victory, but he will want to take back seconds. He'll be the driver that has DRS. He'll be the driver searching for second place as we head down the start-finish race. And he does close in. The Ferrari going defensive. The Williams to the outside of turn 1, then cutting perhaps to the inside of turn 2. No. The Ferrari was wise to that challenge, but now look, the gloomy skies overhead. I talked about the chance of rain. That chance feels tangible. It's tantalising. And for Slick, it's a prospect he wants to do away with. And around this circuit, if you do not time a possible wet weather moment by switching to wet tyres, you're going to lose out considerably, perhaps 20 seconds a lap. And it's another variable in this race that just adds to the enthralling excitement we have enjoyed for the past hour and a half. Here comes Jammy once more. Of course, no DRS towards 130R, but with the use of the slipstream, he does still close in noticeably. Right through the end of this lap, through the final corner, and again the Williams struggling with the rear. With the aid of DRS, Lucas knows the threat that is mounting and arising, and going into turn 1, the Williams looking for the outside line once more, but it's just so tight through that section of track. And Lucas is mastering the challenge of holding second place, which Slick did, or Slick was able to accomplish for so much of this race. Now starting to close in on Axel and utilising these younger, medium compound tyres. The McLaren bursting into life once more. That spin earlier on in this race set him back. It did not set him back fully. He is rediscovering that spark that has defined him. Most certainly in the first 3 seasons of Formula Premier. And he's looking to deliver it with 6.5 laps remaining. Jammy looking a lot closer on this lap, and you can see on the overhead shot. Okay, that exit off of the final corner, not the greatest, but it may be ample if he wants to launch a considerable attack going into the first corner. Gupta passing Axel. I think Axel's had a problem because he's now cut adrift from Gupta. And the McLaren up into 5th place. .4 seconds is the gap out in front. Slick is now on a charge after Jammy's error in which he was passed by Lucas. The Aston Martin has built a considerable gap, but with the heavens and with Mother Nature perhaps ready to forge a twist, nothing, I repeat, nothing is off the table. And Jammy will most certainly hope so, if it is him who's going to dance in delight here at Suzuka. Needs to move for P2 first. And again looks close, but like we said in previous laps, that exit off of the chicane through the final corner has really compromised his progress. It looks to compromise him still. This is turning into one frustrating race for Jamie. Also, it's interesting to see how we know Suzuka is really punishing on tyres. But the drivers are able to battle and keep behind, well, igniting battle for a considerable amount of laps, which is really healthy for the action and the competition. But whether the rain does fall, that could really hamper the drivers. I felt like I saw a spot of rain just a moment ago, and I'm not wearing my glasses, so I can't be absolutely sure. Aaron, very much on the tail of Jamie now. Wow, this is so close. We know he was within a second, but he's almost pushing the Williams around the corners. Aaron be on for a magnificent podium finish. I could see Jamie well. He's closing in on Lucas again. Heading into 130R. Initially trying to take the inside line, going into the chicane. But Slick now publishing the fastest lap of this race so far. But wow, this is close now. Jamie closing in on the Ferrari with the aid of DRS, searching, seeking and claiming the outside line, and with it, second place already because the Ferrari of Lucas suffering with understeer through the first corner, not looking to yield, but will have to. And the moment arrived, and the chance was seized. What a splendid move from Jamie, who is back up into the top two, though he is now 4 seconds behind the race leader, Tablet Storm and Revoked, going hammer and tong through the first couple of corners. The McLaren ahead, and the McLaren in 7th. But Lucas now down to 3rd as the Alpine of Aaron right behind him. It's just getting darker and darker around this circuit. Rain must be a prospect. Even though we have 3.5 laps remaining, it must be a prospect. Slick will definitely hope not. Now these three in formation, heading into 130R. Lucas, who was running at the head of this trio for many a lap, is now the meat in this train, which is not a good analogy whatsoever. But through the final corner, still running in formation, Provokes not letting go of Tablet Storm. As we have an overhead view of the trio heading into 130R. Provokes just chancing perhaps the idea of 7th place, and having DRS, which has proved effective enough to see the drivers close in on one another, not so much for making overtakes. The Red Bull initially thinking about some moves to the inside. Tablet Storm wary of that threat. He was almost caught offline, but remains ahead still. But look how close the Red Bull is, going through the S's, experimenting with different lines, which you can do in battle. Whether it yields an overtake or not, that's a whole different prospect. Back to the battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. The battle for the final podium places is going to be decided at the death. Lucas, it looks like he's spending a bit of battery beneath the rear wing of Jamie, and looking to seize 2nd place back. Slick, nearly 5 seconds out in front. You can see the Alpine in the rear view of Lucas, and you can see the Williams just ahead. It was into turn 1 in which Jamie made his move for 2nd. It's this part of the track which we sprint through now. And you can see, oh, Aaron cast away then from the two drivers ahead, cut away almost a second now behind Lucas. And that could be his dream over of a fight back to the podium places. And so the battle for second and third will rage on. But Aaron has made a costly error. For the exit of the Degner curves. Lucas still close. Still tantalisingly close. It seemed like the Williams is going to be an easy man to pass. For the penultimate time in this race, these two will head down the back straight into 130R. And look, Lucas closing in so very much into the chicane. He's not going to make the move, but off of the exit, searching for a promising exit, which he gets. Jamie's struggling just a touch, and Lucas presented with an opportunity on the final lap of this race to make a move, a poignant move for second place. The Williams going defensive. Lucas looking to waltz around the outside. Jamie then forced into a spin and losing a podium place. And the drama just never ends in Formula Premiere. Jamie starts in pole, was searching for his victory and is not going to stand on the podium. And the final slice of the dejection has really been cast upon the Williams. And it's not going to be a second consecutive win for Williams around Suzuka here in Formula Premiere. So it's Slick in the lead, it's Lucas in second, it's Aaron in third. And Jamie having to settle, it seems, the fourth place and outside of the podium places. And here comes Revokes on the final lap of this race. Nearly shoving the McLaren of Tablet Storm through the corners. He's late on the brakes going into the hairpin. He's looking to be precise off of the exit, but out in front. With the gloomy skies gathering overhead, Slick is a light that has been burning bright. A scintillating drive earns him a superb race victory around the Suzuka Circuit. He stood the measure of the opposition and delivers his third win of the season. But here comes the race through 130R, closing in on Tablet Storm. Struggling mid-apex. Revokes looking to break to the outside of the chicane. Tablet Storm keeping him at arm's length, and they will put down the power for one final time. Revokes dancing with the rear. Tablet Storm comes home seventh, ahead of the Red Bull of Revokes. Curtis Chaos and M Blaze will round out the final point scoring positions. But in a season where perhaps he was chancing the idea of a championship, a dream that fell away is largely evaporated after one stellar, scintillating drive around Suzuka. Well done to Slick. I'd say that was his, probably not his most dominant win of the season. Miami was just incredible. But here today, he was bulletproof. So there it is then for Slick. What a thrilling drive that was from him. So well managed, with so much measure. What a drive there from Slick. He wins ahead of Lucas Jamy, Aaron Gupta, Excel, Tablet Storm, Hydrant, Curtis Chaos Revokes, with Emblaze U-Pass and a Kurjre finishing outside of the points. And, well, what a race that was. Well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Suzuka was possibly chanced as not being a great race. Formula Premier does things differently, and we did invest in the drama we promised. So Slick looked at absolute ease in the end. His passage to prowess was not so straightforward. And so we close in on the final two races of the season. Two more races to be enjoyed around China and, frankly, I don't know where else. China and Singapore's our final round of the season. But let's take a breath and go and watch Indy qualifying. But in all seriousness, thank you so much, one and all, for coming along it this evening. What a drive from Slick. His third win of the season, a trio of victories in Season 4 of Formula Premier. And this third one must taste sweet. Thank you all so very much for your company on this Saturday evening. And make sure you return for when we return here at Formula Premier. And until next time, goodbye.